What is it that people are seeing? Is it a man? An animal? A myth? Or something else? Are they delusional? Are they lying? Some are pastors. Some are law enforcement. Some are military. If they are delusional liars, why do we trust them to lead us to God? To put people in jail and to protect our way of life? Why are their words and actions good enough for that? But when it comes to experiencing something out of the ordinary, something fascinating, something possibly terrifying, they become a fool, a joke, an idiot. Not here. We are the Big Dog T2B. Welcome to the show. Hello everyone, my name is Jack, and welcome to the Big Dog T2B. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, you can visit us at www.bigdogt2b.com. You can also contact us by contacting me directly at gentlemanjack@bigdogt2b.com. Send us an email if you'd like to be on the show, or you know someone who'd like to be on the show. Again, we'd like to thank everyone who commented on our last video. Deborah Irvin, Christine Smith, Richard Barfield, Jojo McGee-Joe, Hoosier Squatch, Chris Walters, Jeremy Harrison, Alan Garlick, Tim Egan, Vicky Kirkland, Chris Sleeger, Cajun Jules, and Barry Browning. Thank you very much for your comments and praise. We do also welcome constructive criticism. Well, if I remember correctly from our last episode, we left off with Greg saying something like, if he had better sense, he'd have probably shit himself. So let's get on with the show.
Bright as my headlights came over, and they were on bright. As my lights came over, it illuminated the oncoming hill, and then my lights went down into the swag. When it did, crossing the highway, and this thing was already in the center, but on the center line, and it was going across toward my left. Like it was fixing to cross the oncoming lane, but it was on two legs, totally covered in black hair, upright, running across the road, and its eyes looked like they were bigger than golf balls, way bigger than golf balls. I would dare say nearly as big as a racquetball. But they were glowing like a, not really a dark red, but kind of an orangey red. And that thing, it streaked across the road, and I watched it jump off of an embankment, about 6 or 7 foot tall embankment, and hit the ground at the bottom, and then go into the timberline. But that is the 3 sightings where I have laid eyes on it. 2 of them's been daytime, and one of them at 3:30 in the morning, somewhere like that. But that was in 2020, and I think it was around April or so of 2020. Maybe the end of April, maybe first part of May. But that, like I said, I would dare say that I've been a lot of encounters, and I've only seen them 3 times. 3 times. Now, I've had them close. I've had them way closer than I wanted. Matter of fact, I'll just tell you the closest I've had one And one of the times that I've been more surprised, and if, as my grandpa said, if I'd have thought of it, I'd have shit on myself. I was coming out of that upper field that I keep telling you about. And I'd stayed in there a little later than I should have, and it was done getting very, very dim. We'll put it that way. It wasn't completely dark. But I walked around that last curve, and it's actually the exact curve that I was telling you about a while ago when I could see him, when he finally come around that curve and I could barely make him out. Well, when I rounded that curve coming out this night, I come around that curve and I would walk in the middle of this road. That way I was as far away from the bushes as I could be. But the very center of the road was 6 foot from the bushes because it was a 6 foot bush hog going in and a 6 foot bush hog coming out. So that made the road 12 feet wide. I was walking in the middle and I had my Browning rifle laying on my right shoulder, holding it with my right hand. I had the barrel pointing behind me. And I was just walking out that road trying to be quiet. And I was, moving at a pretty decent little clip. I wasn't trotting or anything, but I wasn't wasting no time because it's getting dark. Well, about the time I round the curve where I could see my truck, I had like a little sigh of relief, like, okay, I'm back at the truck. I could see the grill on the truck, the chrome grill shining, and make out the truck. My truck was dark colored. It was a dark blue, nearly a black, but I could see the chrome grill really good. Right over my right shoulder. And this didn't come from like above my head, like something making a racket above my head. It came down from lower than my shoulder. But this thing was, I'm talking about, couldn't have been more than just barely hidden in the leaves on the side of the road. I would dare say I had to be within 10 foot of it when it made the sound. And I had just walked within 6 feet of it when I walked by it. I never smelt it. I never heard it till it made the racket. But as I'm walking, and I'm just walking along, over my right shoulder right behind me, I hear a huff, just huff. And I'm talking about it was like stepping out in a gust of wind. It was like I felt air hit me and you could feel it like go through your body, the vibration of it. I almost turned inside out, spun around, jerked my rifle downward, and caught the forearm with my left hand, and I'm holding my rifle at my hip. I've done flipped the safety and got my finger beside the trigger, pointing at where this sound came from. I never quit moving. That's the thing of it was, I spun and went walking forward. I'm moving backwards, trying to get away from it, but trying not to run. But that thing never made another sound. It never made another racket. But I proceeded to back myself as quickly and as fastly as possible to my truck, go around the gate, of course, flip my safety back on, but I got in the truck and had my rifle laying in my lap, still loaded. So I never unloaded it. So I got another, probably a quarter of a mile back up toward the main road. And then I reached over and jerked the shell out of the chamber and locked the bolt open. But that thing, I wondered a bunch of times if that thing was sitting there grinning from ear to ear like, well, I got him. But it absolutely, and that's the thing about it, if that thing had wanted me, all it had to do was stuck its hand out and I was done. All he had to do was snatch me in the bushes and I was done.
Yeah, that's when you sort of, I mean, it scares the heck out of you that they've been that close to you. But then you get to thinking about it that, yeah, they had you. If they wanted you, they had you. And
well, there for a long time, I would try to think that I could rely on, well, I'm going to hear them or I'm going to at least smell them if they get that close. And I can't put it together and talk with Coonbo and talk with Troy and Nate, Cheryl, talk with everybody about, I can't come up with a deal on why sometimes the things they get within 50 yards of you and they'll smell so bad it'll burn your eyes. and then sometimes they'll be right up on top of you, and you'll never smell them. And then sometimes they'll be right on top of you, and you never heard them till they're right on top of you and want you to know they're there. And then sometimes they sound like a freight train coming through the woods.
Yeah, I still think about that time that we were down there in Mississippi at that place we call Armstrong Corner, and there was a total of 5 of us. We'd ridden in there in my big old F-250 Super Duty, and we're parked out there, and we're 30, 40 yards from the nearest tree, and hell, we're that far away from the nearest anything that was more than a foot tall, and we were right there in a curve. There was a wheat field, there was wheat planted on both sides of the road, and we'd been there a little while, and I don't remember what I was doing, but I went walking around my truck towards the driver's door, and there was a dadgum booger laying there under the edge of the truck under my running board. And when I came around there, it jumped up. We hadn't smelt it, hadn't heard it, nothing. This was on a gravel road. And it jumped up, took off running. And all 5 of us took off running after it. And up this wide open gravel road. And it skunked us. And I mean, the smell was, of course, we were right behind it. Of course, it was just running off and leaving us like we were tied to a boulder or something, and but it skunked us so badly when the smell hit us, we literally bowed over gagging and retching. It was that bad. And I remember one of the guys when he took off after it, he was out to the side. It was running in the left-hand track of this gravel road. Another guy was, and that's 4 of us were running in that left-hand track or in the very center, and the smell gagged us. One of the guys was running over in the right-hand track, and he actually, even though it was just flat running off and leaving him, he was pretty fast. And but he was running in the right-hand track, and then the thing switched over to the right-hand side of the road, and when he ran in there close to where it had crossed, it hit him, and he slammed on the brakes and bowed over wretched. And but I mean, I still wonder how that thing got up on us like it did, and nobody saw or heard it. I'm still in awe of what happened a couple of years ago to me out in Oklahoma. I turned on it was a dark, moonless night, dark, overcast, moonless night. You literally couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And we were riding down the road, and I just felt like this was a good place, and so we stopped. And I got out and stood in front of the truck for a while, and I went back and I realized I'd left my thermal laying on the front seat of the truck. So I went back to the truck and got my thermal, turned it on. As soon as the son of a gun, turned on and, went through his startup procedure and turned on, I raised it up to my eye, and everything's bright. I thought, well, what's the matter with this thing? I let it down, I let it back up, and I suddenly realized there was a bugger standing there in the road in front of me. Actually, it was slowly walking across the road in front of me, not making a sound across a gravel road that we couldn't do it. We couldn't make any move on it without crunching gravel. This thing was not making a sound. It walked right across the road in front of me, just a fuzz over 20 feet in front of me. And that still blows my mind. Again, I know it was there close when I was standing there in the dark by myself. Everybody else was back towards the back of the truck. I was standing out in front of my truck. That thing could have snatched me, and this dude was 9 feet tall. But it was sort of like what you said, Greg. When I figured out what I was looking at, I was like, look at that, look. And about that time, everybody's looking up there, and, a gang of us saw it. But that's another thing. It walked over behind this. This thing was about 9 feet tall, nine and a half feet tall. unbelievably massive. And it walked over behind a big white oak on the side of the road. That white oak was a good 2.5, 3 feet in diameter. Walked in behind it, and it sort of leaned out, looking at us around around the trunk of the tree. His head was out on the left side, and his whole big old butt was sticking out on the right side. Yeah, it wasn't even close to hidden behind that tree. But that still just amazes me. That's how did that thing cross that road like that on that gravel road and not make a sound? One of those head scratchers.
Back to what
Yeah.
you were saying about encounters, Greg. I got a Word document from Maryland, and it's just Maryland, that once I see something, right, I see it, not eye shine, seen that over 6 feet numerous times. Not anything ambiguous, right? I get that thing that says, like when it crossed the road in front of you, and I say, I see you, you son of a bitch. But
Yeah.
in just 35 months of the time that I lived in Maryland, there were 54 random things there that I took time to note down, right? Not, and there were a lot of things because it got to be so relatively normal that I didn't write them all down. There's probably at least this many more that I didn't write down. And they're one-line things. It comes up to about close to 3 pages. Sharp air intake sound followed by scream. Sounds like an owl and a hyena fighting over something. Soft howl moan, 9:20 p.m. Wendy's outside, dogs alert. My quiet command for the dogs comes from the woods across the road. Wendy's standing out front, dogs are in back, I'm in the house. Brush crashing, huff bark in the distance. Persistent who voice. No hollow throat noise, ×2 in the field. This is one day when I came home from work, and my dogs, they go to the bathroom on command. Even if they don't have to, they'll go do something just because they know I'm telling them to do it. And I'm working the dogs beside the house, and like I said, it was in the middle of 61 acres. And it was, dusky dark twilight, and I'm working the dogs, and I heard, whoo! And it got to the point to where I didn't look at it. What I would do is I would point my shoulder at whatever I heard and look at it out of the very corner of my eye, but it was too dark. And about 20, 30 seconds later, it went from whoo to whoo, right? Much more just blatantly not anywhere near an owl. And just random things like that out there in a place where, people don't mess around. That's one of those places in Maryland, for it to be as blue a state as it is, they'll shoot you. They'll kill you. The people there don't put up with any foolishness. So I can't say that I haven't had an encounter. I've had numerous possible encounters. And once I have that full-on sighting, and I get to say those magic words, now I know those will be the first words out of my mouth after your story. I can say that I've had numerous encounters all my life. But this is part of the thing that drives me absolutely, I don't even know the word for it, because my fear is I'm insane. So I can't say it drives me insane. My fear is I'm insane. You guys know, man, you're not insane. You can tell me that all day. I still doubt my sanity because of all of these things. And I'm not a rookie. I grew up in the Mobile River swamp hunting. Like you and your dad, I've killed more deer than you can probably haul off in a box truck. I'm proficient. I know what's there. I can go out there. I can make a living today if I had to. In all of these things, in just this 135-month period, despite all of the other things that happened in my life, here's 54, 50-something line item entries of stuff that were significant enough for me to go in and write down. Daytime off-key tempo whistling coming for 500 yards in 5 minutes, and this is through dense, nasty scrub like you were talking about. Whistleback one time it stopped 2 to 3 p.m. That was 11/23/2018. So I empathize, and I hope I get to make that transition one day. But go ahead, brother. Sorry to interrupt you for that, but it was just something on my mind.
No, that's it, dude. That even like the list of stuff that you've got there. I look at all this stuff, and once this gets on you, you can't get enough of it. My wife, she just rolls her eyes because I'm still trying to find any piece of information, anything, and any documentary I can watch or any movie I can watch, and I'm picking them apart. She's like, "Well, if you're gonna watch it, just be quiet." I'm like, "But they're doing it wrong." I said, "I don't even know what I'm doing, but I know that ain't right." And you see them going in the woods with a camera crew, and it's like, look, that ain't happen. And then you see these people that they'll interview for some of these documentaries, and they'll be a devout skeptic, and they'll have some scientist that's got the whole string of the alphabet of letters by their name, PhD and what have you, and they'll be on there going, "Oh, there's nothing about this could be real," and this is all people's made it up. And I've told my wife numerous times, I said, "You know what's sad?" She's like, "What?" I said, "I'm just an old dumb redneck here in North Alabama." And I said, "I know more than what that highly educated, decorated individual that thinks he's got the world by the tail knows." I said, "Because if he'd have seen a tenth of what I've witnessed, he'd have a whole different outlook on life." And that whole part of feeling like you're going crazy, I think that's just a natural part of it, because on one hand, you got 99% of the world telling you that it don't exist, and you got scientists saying, "Oh, it's not real," and people's made it up. And then you're the person that's out here that's experiencing this stuff, and then you see what you see, you hear what you hear, you smell what you smell, you find the tracks, you see all the things that are telling you, but there's still, even with what I've seen, even all the experiences that I've had, the three sightings, that look, there it is. It still you'll let it creep up on you, and you'll go, "What in the world?" I mean, it's like, you have to do a double take and go, "This stuff is real." I mean, you have to just keep telling yourself, "Look, I'm not losing my mind." And that's what makes it such a brotherhood amongst like Nate, Troy, Cheryl, Tim, Bill White, all us guys that get together and can openly talk amongst this stuff and listen to the other guys. And you're sitting with them in person. This podcast, people's gonna listen to me and go, "Well, this guy's legit." And there's gonna be the other 50%, or probably a whole lot more than that, going, "Oh, he's made that up. Ain't nobody had that many encounters. Oh, these people's researched them their whole life. Ain't never seen one. He's seen 3, or he's had all these encounters. Man, there's a lot of these shows. They ain't never had that many encounters." Well, guess what? I've had them. I've seen what I saw. I mean, it's there. It's real. It doesn't matter if they believe it or don't believe it. I know what I saw. My dad. That's
the
one
attitude.
thing. Yeah. Well, one thing that helped me along was my dad. My dad was my best friend, and he taught me pretty much everything I know. And it was me and Dad hunting that, and then of course Al. So I had people that was experiencing the same things that I was. And my dad, after I had saw that one, like the next year, Dad saw one. He laid eyes on one finally. And if we had a family function, and I've got 3 brothers. There's 4 of us boys. I've got 2 older brothers that one's 12 years older, and one's 9 years older, and then my baby brother's 3 years younger than me. I'm number 3 in the mix. But if we ever started talking about it, and if my brothers wanted to go hunt, they didn't hunt that much. But if they wanted to go, I'd take them. I'd tell them the same thing. It's like, "Look, we may run up on something down here that ain't happy." And if they tried to ridicule or poke fun about it, my daddy would go. Daddy would speak up. Daddy was like the old guy, the E.F. Hutton. When E.F. Hutton talked, everybody listened. Well, that's the way it boiled down with my dad. You know, he was the final ruler on everything. He was the last word, had the last say so. And if my brothers ever wanted to say anything, all Daddy had to do was look over at him and say, "You better listen to what he's telling you, because I've seen it too." And that was the end of it. And they, two of my brothers went down there and hunted, and they were in. I'd actually leased another piece of property that was on up paved road from there. I leased 114 acres that joined the main highway, and it was part of that land was about 3/4 of a mile from that other 40. Well, my brothers wanted to hunt that parcel, and I carried them up there, and they went and got in the shooting house to eat. And right before dark, there was a diesel truck came around the curves that at the bridge that Nate and I were talking about a while ago, and the big truck hit his engine brake, his Jake brakes. The old truck, you know how the bah. Well, when it did that, the sound echoed up the holler where my brothers were at, and they were a couple hundred yards apart. Well, in the hollow between them, it was a hollow that had pines in it. It was small pines. These pines were only about 10 feet high. My brother said that couldn't have been more than a couple of hundred yards behind the stand he was in. He said when that diesel truck, the brake went rattling off, he said, "Golly," he said, right behind my stand, he said, they was something went to screaming and yelling and just raising hell, run down the hill, down, said I could hear it running and screaming. Said it was crashing down the hollow toward the river. He said, "What in the hell is that?" I said, "I've been telling you what it was." "Well, by gosh, it made a lot of racket." I said, "Yeah, it sure did. I'm sure." I said, "I've heard it." He said, "Oh," he said, "I don't care nothing about being over that thing." But my dad saw it. I put him at, actually, he was in the field that my brother heard that in. And this was, I don't know, probably the year previous to my brother hearing it. We didn't even have a shooting house there then. We just set up a ground blind. And Dad was sitting in the road going into the field, and the road went into the field, and where the road curved into the field, I went straight and cut just like a four-wheeler trail. And it was one bush hog wide. It was 6 foot wide, and it went about 30, 40 yards, and it went down a little hill and up a little hill, and I went on a couple of hundred yards and then turned around and came back out with the tractor. Well, what it was is you could sit in that ground blind and you could watch that four-wheeler trail, I call it, and you could see the green field too. The green field was to your left, and if you looked straight, you was looking down that, and the deer would come out and walk that trail up. And we killed several deer, and they'd walk that trail. Well, the key to it was you would glance over to the field, but you would concentrate on looking down that trail and using it like a shooting lane. And Dad said he sat there and said that he noticed he like cut his eyes at the field. He said as he started bringing his eyes back, said there was a little covey of birds got up, just, you know, like robins, sparrows, whatever, just a bunch of birds flew out from that trail. And he said he cut his eyes back real quick and said just as he cut his eyes back, he said he saw like from the waist up, just like one stride, he seen the upper torso of this thing just like glide across that trail. Well, it was only about 40 yards from him when it crossed. And when I went back to pick him up, right before it got dark, just as it was getting dark, he had walked out from the field back to the gate at the edge of that road. He opened the door. I said, "You see anything?" He said, "Yeah, I seen the booger man." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I seen the booger man a while ago." I said, "When?" He said, probably 20, 30 minutes ago." I said, "What did it do?" And he told me, he said, "Well, it stepped across that little shooting lane down there." He said it was going on around the field. He said, "I heard it breaking brush around the field." He said, "It went on." I said, "What did you do?" He said, "Well, I made sure it was gone." He said, "I come out here." He said, "I've been waiting out here on you." He said, "I was wondering if you was going to get here before dark." I said, "Yeah." I said, "What it looked like?" He said, "It was jet black, covered in hair from head to toe." And he said, "It was big." So the next day, I said, "Well, how tall was he?" He said, "Well, I don't know." But I could just see like his upper torso, like waist up. I said, "But you know where it was at?" He said, "Oh, yeah." I said, I can show you exactly where it crossed the trail." So the next day, up during the day, nice and pretty sun shining. We go back down there, and I told him, I said, "All right, you get back in that ground blind, and I'm gonna walk down here, and I'll look back, and you keep motioning like go on or stop or whatever." And I'd walk, and I'd look back at him, and he's like motioning, go on with his hand, go on. Then finally he held his hand up, the fist, like stop. And he sat there a minute, and he got up, and he walked down there where I was at. And of course, there was a game trail right exactly where he told me to stop. There was a pretty wide game trail, and it came out of these pines and crossed and went into the other little pines on each side. Well, the ground was hard as a rock. There was no, you could just see some mashed in places out through the pine straw, but there in the where I bush hogged, it was hard. Couldn't see, of course, anything that looked like a track or whatever, but you could see some indentions in the straw. And Dad walked down there where I was at. He said, that thing was big. I said, well, I figured it was. He said, no. He said, look, when you stopped, where I told you to stop, he said, I could only see you from about your armpit up. He said, I saw that thing from its waist up. I said, well, Dad, I'm 6'1", so yeah, that puts it on up pretty good. I said, if you measure me right there and add that to it, I said, it's going to be 8 foot or better. He said, it had to be. It had to be that big. He said, boy, that thing was huge. I said, yeah, sure it was. If it's the one I seen, I know it was. But like I said, it helped me a lot just having Dad and Alan experiencing this with me. And it just that helped me a lot. That helped me preserve my sanity, knowing that hey, I'm not the only one over here. It's not just me by myself.
Yeah.
Where I work, it's highly technical. It's highly technical folks, an international business, highly educated people. And kind of funny, I was walking by one day and heard somebody use the term redneck and couldn't help myself. Kind of listened to the conversation, broke into it a little bit, and I said, well, I got a question. Can you fix your own faucet? And they kind of looked at me. What do you mean? I said, can you fix your own faucet? Could you hang your own door? Could you go out and fix your car today if it needed to be fixed? And they said, well, I said, well, if you ever have to call anybody for that, the person that you're going to call by definition is probably a redneck to a degree. Right? Those are the people that can do all of those things, and they can get along just fine without all of us. They can go about their day, they can make a living, they can do that, and they'll be just fine without all of us. We provide a want, not a need. They can see to their own needs. And we've established that the greater portion of us, which I can do all those things. I may not talk like it all the time, but in my definition of redneck, yeah, I'm a redneck. In passing, and people talk to me, and it's amazing. In that company with that level of folks, I've had about half a dozen people come up to me and say, hey, this is what happened to me. Road crossings primarily. But one of the things I say, and they're so, because they start, poking at me, and I say, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. There are 3 groups that stand out in this stuff, and they are pastors, military, and law enforcement. I'll put you in a room with them and give you the opportunity to call them a liar and see whether or not you want to do that. Because like in the intro to the show, if their words and deeds, if we trust them to lead us to God, put people in jail, and to protect our way of life, where are their words and actions good enough for that? But when it comes to this, they become a joke, an idiot, a liar, a fool. And I don't hold that kind of water to say that.
Yeah, Jack. Now that you went ahead and brought that up, I guess I'll spill that part of the beans. I've had a badge, been sworn officer for over 13 years, and yes, sir. That's it. So yeah,
I know that. I just wasn't going to say it. And thank you for your service.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and throw that in there. So yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've had a badge for a little over 13 years.
I'm not a big boy, but I've been a few places. I've done a few things. I can hold my own, and I can hold a little more. And none of them want to call me a liar either. They can poke fun all they want. And when I've looked at them, I say, okay, are you calling me a liar? Is that what you want to say to me? And at that point, the whole conversation changes.
That's
But
that's the kind of people that's the kind of people that I want to go. That I would have wished would have been with me sometimes when we had the sapling bigger than a Coke can that's getting obliterated and popping, sounds like a gun going off, and then you're getting sticks thrown at you or rocks thrown at you, and that way they could sit there and experience that and see how long they want to hang out in the woods and just wait and see if it comes on closer.
Like Jack, where we were down on that creek that night, you and Nate and I, and there was something on the other side of the creek throwing suitcase-sized rocks out there in it. And I'd like to see how many of those could have hung in there and just sat there watching and listening like we did while all that was going on.
I did the thing, and I've kind of gotten to this point where, if I walked up on one and I looked at it and I got that thing, right? Watched it blink, watched it breathe, picked a tick off of it, smelled its breath or something like that, and it slapped my head from my shoulders, I'd die a happy man. So that night, and we had thermal going.
Yeah,
I thought I had it. I may have, because
I think you did.
there was this little there was this peninsula, and I had a good thermal signature, and I went. I said, I'm going. Put thermal down. Got the light up, and hey, Coonbo, Nate, don't let anything get behind me. But I went out there
I was right behind
I didn't
you.
run. Yeah, you right behind me. Nate was right behind me. We had something else cross the road on us that night. As we got up and went to the other end.
Right.
We were off the Tennessee and got in there where it was thick enough and it was moving well enough. And I wasn't going to go in there because I couldn't see 6 or 8 feet. I'm good, but I'm not that good.
Couldn't see. Yeah.
Yeah. But to be there with all, because it wasn't onesies, twosies, and Nate actually started to giggle, and Nate doesn't have good sense sometimes. He had to go home. But Coonbo made his first call, and within about 10 seconds of his first call, it sounded like a suitcase-sized rock hit the water, and it wasn't shallow water.
Yeah.
It was
No.
sploosh.
Yeah.
And
it was a loud. It was like
after that, he
slap,
made another call. And every time he makes a call, he sploosh.
Yeah.
Nate starts giggling and he's saying, "Do it again." Sploosh.
Nate's the only one out of the whole bunch that's nearly big as a booger anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I go to the doctor. I always tell the doctors if I got to take any clothes off, and I go to the doctor, I tell them I don't want to end up as a Sasquatch sighting in their office on YouTube because I'm hairy. So that's my joke for that. I'm not that big, but I think maybe if I took off my clothes and went Bigfoot hunting, maybe they think I was a sickly kinfolk and try to come take care of me.
When you took off down there towards that peninsula, we were following you down there and got down in that little swamp area. And sure enough, we ran into a beaver down there that was slapping the water. But also, the beaver had slapped the water a couple of times, but then about a softball-sized rock comes flying out of the woods on the other side of that creek and started ricocheting off of tree trunks out there in the swamp. We had that happen. What did they throw, like 2 rocks at us through the trees?
Mm-hmm.
Banged around out there, and then finally hit a trunk good and solid, and it just then it bounced off right into the water.
And you could tell it wasn't falling down. It was flying horizontally.
Oh yeah,
you hear
exactly.
Put a couple of things as it's going by, and then hit something solid, and you hear it hit the water.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And you could tell it was deep water, and you could tell because the water parted. It wasn't like and like I said, there were beavers there, and beavers, when they make that, and you hear that slap noise, and it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a slapping sound, like you take a paddle and hit the water.
Right.
This wasn't like that. This was something went in the water, made a significant void in the water as it went down, and then the water came back together.
Right.
And
Baloosh.
it was it was comical.
Yeah.
In the moment, it was kind of tense for a little while, but I wanted to see it, and it got to the point where the rock throwing was annoying me. Well, I think it's about time to wrap this up. You got anything else to add, Greg?
No, sir. Other than just I appreciate y'all having me on here, and knew I was gonna be in the company of good friends anyway. But I just appreciate y'all letting me vent a little bit and talk about a few things that's happened to me in my life over here, and just maybe somebody will get something out of this. And if they've got a story to tell or an encounter that they want to talk to somebody, maybe they'll contact you and talk with you and Nate, or just share with somebody, and maybe somebody will get something out of this. Something that I've talked about that I've done, or that's been done that I've witnessed. There's a lot of folks out there that don't have anybody to talk to, or nothing. They don't know who to talk to. And I'll promise you, if they've had it happen, they've researched it and they've tried to find out something. So if they just need a shoulder to put their head on and somebody to talk to, maybe they can talk, get some information, and maybe they'll understand that surely they're not going crazy. That what happened to them did happen, and there's a lot of us out here that stuff has happened to. And even though that we've come to terms with it, it's still tough. It's tough, and like I said, y'all, I've been one of the guys that's been that the Lord put me in the right place, the right time, and I've made some real good friends that I think of as like brothers that I've got for a support group, and that's exactly what it boils down to. It's like a support group amongst buddies that we've got something in common, that we've got somebody that we can talk to that we know is not going to ridicule and make fun of us, and that they know just like what we know that it's real and that you're there. And just hope one day that maybe we'll live long enough to see science get their head out of their butt and go ahead and say, yep, here they are, and this is what they do, and this is what we've been studying. So, but other than that, guys, maybe I'll have me on again, and I'll tell you a couple more stories. Some more stories and or encounters. I hate the word story because it's not a story. Story insinuates something made up, and it's not made up. I'll promise you, it's an encounter. But I've got some more that had me severely worried, and I'll just go ahead and say it, scared shitless. But I've had a few more that times that I really didn't know if I was going to make it back out of the woods, and I thought I was going to be the dude fixed out shooting one of these things. And that's another thing. There's been a bunch of times that I could have dumped a bunch of ammo in the woods, and I feel relatively sure that I could have put them right where they needed to go. But I really don't want to have to shoot one of these things. I really don't want to. I do not want to be that guy, because as Bill White told me, it ain't the one that you shoot that you're probably going to have to worry about. It's them other ones that you didn't know was there. And
Exactly.
that rocks with my brain a bunch. But like I said, guys, I appreciate it. And like I said, if nothing else, maybe we done Jimmy Osmond proud tonight. Still be thinking about him and keep him in your prayers, y'all. We need him back out, going out with us. So, but other than that, guys, like I said, I enjoyed it, and I appreciate y'all having me. And I'll turn it back over to you, brother.
I certainly do appreciate it, and that sounds like a plan. Always in for good times with good friends. How about you, Coonbo? You got anything to add?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'll be glad to have old Jimmy Osmer back too, because I always like having Jimmy along because I can outrun him. He's about the only one in the group that I can outrun. And
Them stuffy little legs.
yeah. And but yeah, we got a good group, and these guys are just like brothers. And I think Jack's got I believe you've got contact information for the big dog T2B. on here, don't you? On the somewhere
Yep,
on
I
the
put it
show.
in all the YouTube videos. It's going to be a
Right.
link under the title, and I need to start putting
Right.
that in the back bumper for like, share, subscribe.
Right.
Haven't been great at doing that. We'd
Right.
probably have a bigger audience if I did.
Well,
But
like Greg said, somebody wants to talk to somebody that'll shoot them straight and won't give you a bunch of BS and will tell you what's really going on. There are people out there that try to sensationalize everything, and most of us been like myself. I've been living with these things my whole life. Um, Troy has. There's several of us in here. Greg's been living with them a lot longer than he realized. So has Jack. But um, we'll be glad to help folks out and answer questions and things. But one of the things I always tell people, and this is something my dad taught me from the time I was just old enough to run anything, whether it's a bicycle or a little old tractor or whatever, when you're going back, unless you're parking in your own driveway or in the Walmart parking lot or something, always park with your vehicle pointed out in the safe direction. In other words, where you can, if you have to exit the woods or a field or something quickly, you can just jump in your vehicle, crank it up, and throw it in gear and mash the gas, and you're pointed on the way out. Don't just pull in up in a woods road or something and shut your engine off and get out. Turn that dude around and get it pointed out the safe way out of there. Whatever's the safest way that to get out of there, and so that you can make a fast exit if you want to. Another piece of advice that I tell people, and I tell people that are going to go out with me, I said, you don't wear red and you don't wear yellow out in the woods. And I call it yum yellow and dead red. And I learned about yellow being a dangerous color in the woods way back in the late 1960s. I just tell people also something that I tell people that I've heard from other researchers is that to try to figure out why these Bigfoot or Sasquatch or boogers or haints or whatever you want to call them do what they do, you got to think like them. You got to think like a booger and try to figure out, look at it from the angle of what's in it for them. Why would they do that? Why would they be aggravated that you're playing Led Zeppelin in the woods at night or the William Tell Overture or
another one of our shows, a guy was playing AC/DC Back in Black in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
Got run out.
Around here, it's usually dueling banjos.
Yeah. Why did they rip the power cable out of the side of my trailer, my camper trailer? Why did they keep messing with my generator? That I would leave running at night so I could have air conditioning in my trailer. Why do they do stuff like that? You got to think like them. Why would they go kill a coyote and twist it in half and just leave it laying there? You gotta think like a booger. And that's all and as far as Scump was saying, that's all I got to say about that.
Anybody can reach out to us via bigdogt2b.com. That's big dog, the letter T, the number 2, the letter B.com. Bigfoot Dogman Tracking and Trending the Beasts. My email is gentlemanjack@bigdogt2b.com. You can send me an email and I will forward it to the rest of the group for anybody that you want to speak to individually. And as always, be careful. If you decide to step off the pavement, if you decide to step off the trail and get back into places where people normally don't go, you need to be mentally, physically, and emotionally prepared for what you may encounter. Take care. God bless. We love you. Until next time, have a great day.